Emily sat at the long wooden table, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. The lawyer's office smelled faintly of old books and polished leather. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, but to her it felt cold and sharp, like a spotlight. Her father, Richard, sat at the head of the table. His silver hair was perfectly combed, his suit crisp, his face unreadable. Beside him sat Vanessa, her stepmother, lips curved in a small, satisfied smile. Michael, her half-brother, lounged in his chair, tapping his pen against the table like he was counting down the seconds to victory. Emily's heart pounded as the lawyer began reading the will. She wasn't expecting riches. She wasn't greedy. She just wanted to hear her father speak her name with pride, to know she still mattered. She'd worked hard all her life as a nurse, never asking him for a dime. But still, he was her father. Then came the words that shattered her world. "I owe you nothing," Richard said flatly, his voice slicing through the silence. He didn't even glance at her. "You are not my daughter." For a moment, Emily thought she'd misheard. The room tilted, her ears rang. "What?" Her voice came out small, shaky. Richard's eyes were cold. "You heard me." Vanessa's smirk widened. Michael leaned back in his chair and gave a quiet laugh, like he'd just won a bet. The lawyer cleared his throat, uncomfortable, but Richard waved him on. The will was read quickly after that. Everything went to Vanessa and Michael. Not a single word about Emily. Heat rushed to Emily's face. She felt every pair of eyes on her, judging, pitying. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor. But she stayed seated, frozen in place. "Dad," she whispered, still clinging to hope. "What are you saying? How can you say I'm not your daughter?" Richard didn't flinch. "Because it's the truth." Her throat tightened so much it hurt to breathe. All around her, the air seemed heavy, pressing down. Vanessa looked delighted, Michael smug. Emily wanted to scream at them, to make them stop looking at her like that. But no words would come. Finally, she stood, her chair scraping loudly against the polished floor. "I don't believe you," she said, her voice trembling but louder now. "You're lying." Richard didn't answer. He just looked away, as though she were a stranger who had wandered into his office by mistake. Emily turned and walked out, her legs weak, her chest burning. She didn't even make it to the elevator before the tears came. Hot, unstoppable, blinding. In the space of a single moment, her father had erased her. And yet one question burned through the pain, fierce and unshakable. Why would he do this? Why would a father so cruelly reject his own daughter? Raised by Richard after her mother died when she was only 6, Emily grew up believing her father was her rock. In the beginning, Richard had been warm and protective. He held her hand through every nightmare, attended every school play, and whispered that she would always be his little girl. But everything changed when she turned 10. That was the year Richard remarried. Vanessa came into their lives, beautiful, sharp-tongued, and always dressed like she was going to an important meeting. At first, Emily tried to like her. She even called her mom once, hoping it would make things better. But Vanessa only laughed and said, "Don't call me that. I'm not your mother." Soon after, Michael was born. The house that once echoed with Richard's laughter became quiet, except when Vanessa was complaining or Michael was crying. Emily, who had been the center of her father's world, was suddenly standing on the edges of her own home. Vanessa had a way of making Emily feel small without ever raising her voice. "Is that really what you're wearing to dinner?" she'd ask with a cold smile. "You're nothing like your mother." She was graceful. Richard never defended Emily. At first, he would simply stay silent, pretending not to hear. Later, he began joining in, correcting Emily harshly, comparing her to Michael in ways that always left her feeling second best. The girl who once ran to her father with every scraped knee and happy story learned to keep her feelings to herself. By the time she was a teenager, she no longer expected kind words at home. She spent more time at the library or with friends than with her own family. And when she graduated high school, she left for nursing school without looking back. Now, at 27, Emily lived in a small apartment across town. She worked long shifts at the hospital, caring for people with a gentle heart and steady hands. She was proud to earn her own money, pay her own bills, and never depend on her father or Vanessa for help. But no matter how strong she became, part of her still longed for Richard's approval, the loving father she remembered from childhood. She kept pictures of her late mother by her bed, often wondering what life would have been like if she'd lived longer. Would Richard have stayed kind? Would Vanessa have ever entered their lives? Would Emily have grown up feeling like she truly belonged somewhere? The pain of being treated like an outsider never fully went away. Every holiday at her father's house felt like stepping into enemy territory. Vanessa's sly comments, Michael's arrogant smirks, and Richard's cold indifference left Emily feeling like she was visiting strangers instead of family. But still she kept coming back. Birthdays, holidays, occasional Sunday dinners. Emily kept showing up, hoping for a kind word from her father, even if it never came. She wanted him to look at her and see more than just a reminder of her mother. She wanted him to say, "I'm proud of you." She wanted to know she mattered. That's why the will reading mattered so much. It wasn't about money. Emily had her own career and her own life. It was about recognition. Being named in her father's will meant she was still his daughter, still part of his family, no matter what Vanessa whispered behind closed doors. Deep down, Emily believed Richard still loved her, even if he didn't show it. She believed the coldness was just stress, or maybe Vanessa's influence. She never imagined her father would truly reject her. But as she sat in that lawyer's office, waiting for her name to be read, she felt a knot in her stomach, a quiet fear she couldn't explain. She told herself she was being silly, that this was just a formality. What she didn't know was that everything she believed about her family, about her father, her childhood, even her own identity, was about to be torn apart. And it would hurt far worse than any cruel word Vanessa had ever spoken. Emily wanted love, recognition, and justice, not just a share of an estate. She wanted to belong to the man who had once called her, "my little girl." She wanted to know her mother's memory was safe. What she was about to hear would threaten all of that, and force her to question who she really was. After being publicly disowned, Emily left the lawyer's office with tears burning in her eyes. The words kept echoing in her head. "You are not my daughter. I owe you nothing." She felt sick, humiliated, and angry all at once. She couldn't let it end there. She had to hear it from her father's own mouth, away from Vanessa's smirks and Michael's mocking laughter. That evening, she drove to Richard's mansion, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. The house looked the same as always, perfect lawn, glowing lights. A gate that opened only because she still knew the code. But stepping inside felt different now. Cold. Like she was no longer welcome. Richard was in his study, sitting behind his massive desk with a glass of whiskey in hand. He didn't look surprised to see her. If anything, he looked annoyed. "Emily, this isn't a good time," he said sharply. "This can't wait." Her voice shook, but she didn't care. "How could you say that to me? In front of everyone? That I'm not your daughter?" Richard set down his glass with a loud clink. "Because it's true." Emily stared at him, not understanding. "What are you talking about?" "You were never mine," Richard said coldly, as if he were reading a business report. "Your mother lied to me. I raised another man's child." The words hit her like a slap. "No, that's not true. Mom would never." "I have no reason to lie to you," Richard interrupted. His face was hard, his eyes full of resentment. "Vanessa was right all along. I was a fool to believe otherwise." Emily shook her head, tears spilling over. "You think Mom cheated on you? That's insane. She loved you more than anything." "She loved someone," Richard said bitterly. "But it wasn't me. I should have seen it years ago. You're nothing like me." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "So this is why you've treated me like a stranger? Because you think I'm not your blood?" Richard didn't answer. He just looked away, as if even seeing her was painful. Emily stepped closer, desperate. "Tell me who told you this. Vanessa? Michael? You think they care about you? They only care about what they can take from you." Richard's jaw tightened. "Leave, Emily. I don't want to hear another word." Her whole body shook with anger and heartbreak. "No," she said, her voice rising. "I'm not leaving until you tell me why you believe this lie." Richard slammed his hand on the desk, making her flinch. "Enough. Your mother betrayed me, and you are living proof." For a long, heavy moment, the room was silent except for Emily's ragged breathing. Then Richard turned away, dismissing her like she was nothing. Emily's heart broke all over again. But beneath the pain, something stronger began to rise, a fierce, burning resolve. "Mom never betrayed you," she said, her voice low but steady now. "And I'm going to prove it. I don't care what Vanessa whispered in your ear. I don't care what lies you believe. I know who I am, and I know who she was. Richard didn't answer. He just kept staring at the wall, as if she were already gone. Emily turned and walked out, her legs trembling, but her chin held high. By the time she reached her car, her tears had dried. The shock was giving way to determination. If her father wanted to erase her, she wouldn't let him. If Vanessa thought she had one, she was wrong. Emily would dig into the past, old letters, family friends, anything that held the truth. She would clear her mother's name no matter what it took. She started the engine, gripping the wheel tightly. "You're wrong about me, Dad," she whispered to herself. "And I'll prove it." The fight for her identity, and for her mother's honor, had just begun. Emily seeks old family friends, her mother's letters, and anything that can tell her what really happened years ago. She spends her days off from the hospital chasing small clues, a dusty photo album, a faded envelope hidden at the back of a drawer, names of people who once knew her mother well. Her first stop is Mrs. Green, her mother's childhood friend. The old woman greets Emily warmly but grows tense when she hears why Emily has come. "Your mother loved your father very much," Mrs. Green says firmly. "She was proud of him. I never heard a word about another man." "Then why does Dad think I'm not his?" Emily asks, her voice trembling. Mrs. Green shakes her head. "Someone has poisoned his mind." Everywhere Emily goes, she finds bits and pieces of the same story. Her mother was faithful, gentle, and deeply in love with Richard. But none of this softens Richard's heart. He refuses to take her calls. When she shows up at the house, the gates stay locked. Vanessa works hard to make things worse. Word spreads quickly among relatives. Emily is greedy. Emily is unstable. Emily's causing trouble over money. Aunts who once hugged her now avoid her calls. Family friends cancel lunch plans. Even at work, Emily feels whispers behind her back. Michael has been telling anyone who will listen that she's just bitter about losing her inheritance. The more isolated Emily feels, the harder she clings to the truth. She digs deeper, searching through her mother's belongings stored in boxes in the attic of her small apartment. One evening, she finds a bundle of letters tied with a ribbon, notes her mother wrote to Richard when they were first married. They are full of love, full of hope for their family. Emily reads them through tears. "How could Dad believe she betrayed him?" she whispers. But then she uncovers something stranger. Medical papers tucked between the letters. They're old, yellowed, but clear enough. Blood test results, hospital notes, and a half-completed DNA test form with Richard's signature. It looks as though her father once questioned her paternity years ago, but for some reason he never followed through. The discovery shakes Emily. Was Richard suspicious even back then? Did Vanessa plant the doubt so long ago? The thought makes her stomach twist. Emily reaches out to another family friend, Mr. Adams, who once worked with Richard. Over coffee, his eyes darken as he leans close. "Vanessa never liked you, Emily," he says. "I've seen her whisper things in Richard's ear for years." Little by little, she turned him cold. It's not about money, it's about control. She wants everything for Michael. So she lied to him? Emily asks. "Wouldn't surprise me," Mr. Adams replies. But Richard let her do it. He chose to believe her. These words sting more than Emily expects. Even if Vanessa is manipulating her father, Richard didn't defend her, didn't even ask for proof before casting her aside. That betrayal cuts deeper than anything Vanessa could say. Days turn into weeks. Emily works her shifts, but every free moment goes into the investigation. She calls distant relatives, tracks down people who once worked for her parents, and keeps following the trail. The picture grows clearer. Vanessa has been at this for years, slowly turning Richard against his own daughter, convincing him that Emily didn't belong. The weight of it all begins to crush her. One night, after another unanswered call to her father, Emily sits alone in her apartment, her hands shaking. "Why am I even fighting?" she asks herself out loud. "He doesn't want me. Maybe it doesn't matter whose blood runs in my veins." But then she looks at her mother's letters, at the gentle handwriting full of love. No, she can't stop. This isn't just about her. It's about protecting her mother's name from a terrible lie. The more she uncovers, the more dangerous things feel. Vanessa starts showing up at the hospital, pretending to check on Emily, but really spreading gossip among her co-workers. Michael posts cruel things online, calling Emily a fraud. Richard refuses every request to meet. Emily feels like the walls are closing in. Everyone either believes the lie, or is too afraid to speak up. And yet, she keeps pushing forward. Late one night, while going through the papers again, Emily notices something she missed before. One of the medical documents is recent, far too recent to have come from her mother's old files. It's a copy of her own birth records and Richard's request for a DNA test years ago. But there's no result attached. Why wasn't it completed? Did Vanessa interfere back then too? Emily feels her anger harden into resolve. If Richard once questioned her paternity, then she'll settle it herself. Not with whispers or half-finished forms, but with proof. A real DNA test, done now with no interference. If she can get Richard to agree, she can finally expose the truth. But convincing him will not be easy. He won't answer her calls. He won't even open the door. Vanessa is everywhere, guarding him, twisting every word Emily says. And still, Emily refuses to give up. This is no longer about inheritance. It's about truth. It's about her mother's honor. And it's about Emily herself, who she is, where she comes from, and whether she'll let lies define her life. She takes a deep breath, clutching the medical documents and her mother's letters close to her chest. "I'm not walking away," she whispers. "Not now. Not ever." The fight is far from over, and Emily is ready for whatever comes next. Emily confronts Richard again, this time holding a folder full of proof. She has her mother's love letters, old medical records, and the unfinished DNA test Richard once considered. Her hands tremble, but her voice is steady as she stands in his study. "You're wrong about Mom," Emily says firmly, laying the papers on his desk. "She never betrayed you. You've been lied to." Richard glances at the folder, his expression hard. "I told you to leave this alone." "I can't," Emily replies, her eyes shining with anger and hurt. "Do you even recognize her handwriting? These letters are full of love for you. And this." She holds up the old test request. "You doubted me years ago, didn't you? But you never finished it. Why? Because Vanessa told you not to." Richard stiffens at the name, but doesn't speak. Emily steps closer. "I don't want your money. I don't care about the will. I care about Mom's name, and mine. If you have even a shred of decency left, you'll take a DNA test with me. Right now. No more lies." For a long moment, Richard says nothing. His jaw tightens, his eyes avoid hers. "You're wasting your time." "Are you afraid of the truth?" Emily asks softly. "Because I'm not." Something in her voice breaks through his pride. Finally, Richard exhales heavily. "Fine. You want a test? You'll get your test. But when it proves I'm right, don't ever come back here." Emily swallows hard, nodding. "And if it proves you're wrong?" Richard doesn't answer. The test is done quietly at a private clinic. Days crawl by like years, and neither of them speaks to each other in the meantime. Emily works long shifts at the hospital, but her mind is elsewhere, replaying every word, every cold look from her father. Vanessa keeps spreading rumors, smug and confident that Richard will be proven right. Michael jokes openly about the charity case finally being exposed. Then the call comes. The results are ready. They meet at the clinic office. The doctor opens the envelope and reads the result with calm professionalism. The test shows a 99.99% match. Emily is Mr. Richard Hale's biological daughter. Emily's heart leaps, she knew it. But Richard goes pale. He stares at the paper like it's written in a foreign language. "That's impossible," he mutters. "No, Dad," Emily says, her voice shaking with emotion. "It's the truth. I've been your daughter all along." Richard sits down heavily, his face drained of color. For the first time, he looks unsure, even frightened. "But Vanessa, she said she showed me." "What did she show you?" Emily demands. Slowly, painfully, the truth comes out. Years ago, Vanessa had brought Richard evidence. A fake letter, twisted stories about Emily's mother, even a forged document hinting at another man. She repeated the lies over and over until Richard believed them. She convinced him not to finish the original DNA test, claiming it would only embarrass the family. "She lied to you because she wanted everything for Michael," Emily says, her voice raw. "And you let her." Richard's hands shake as he looks at her. Really looks at her, for the first time in years. "Emily, my God, what have I done?" All the anger Emily has been holding back finally bursts out. "You chose her over me. You believed her lies about Mom. You threw me away without even asking for proof." Tears stream down her face, but she doesn't look away. Do you know how it feels to hear your own father say you're not his child? In front of everyone. Richard covers his face with his hands, his shoulders trembling. I was wrong. I was blind. I don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it, Emily says sharply. But you can stop lying to yourself. Mom was faithful. I'm your daughter. And Vanessa has been poisoning you for years. The door bursts open. Vanessa, overhearing everything, storms in with Michael at her side. Richard, don't listen to her. Enough, Richard roars, slamming his hand on the table. His voice shakes with fury and shame. I've heard enough of your lies. You destroyed my family and I let you. Vanessa's face twists in shock, but Richard is already pulling the DNA results from the doctor's hands, waving them like a weapon. Emily is my daughter. My only daughter. And you two will never steal another thing from me. Michael tries to argue, but Richard silences him with a glare so cold it makes the boy step back. Get out, Richard says to Vanessa and Michael, his voice low but deadly. Both of you. Out of my house. Out of my life. They leave in stunned silence, Vanessa's confident smirk finally gone. When they're gone, Richard turns to Emily, his eyes full of regret. I don't deserve your forgiveness, he whispers. But please, I beg you don't hate me. I thought I was protecting myself. I didn't see what she was doing. Emily wipes her tears, her voice firm. You didn't protect yourself. You destroyed us. You believed lies about the woman who loved you most, and you crushed your own daughter in the process. Richard bows his head, speechless. Emily picks up the test results and holds them to her chest. This isn't about money, Dad. It's about truth. I'm your daughter. I always was. But whether I can ever be your family again, that's something you'll have to earn. With that, she turns and walks out, leaving Richard alone, pale and shaking, finally realizing the full weight of what he's done. Richard removes Vanessa and Michael from his will, reinstating Emily as his rightful heir. Lawyers handle the paperwork quickly, and word spreads through the family. For the first time in years, no one questions who Emily is. The truth is clear. But to Emily, it isn't about money or property. It's about something far deeper. The years of hurt, the lies told about her mother, and the cold way her father cast her aside. Richard calls Emily again and again. When she finally agrees to meet him, he looks older, more fragile. His proud shoulders seem to sag under the weight of his guilt. I've corrected everything, he says, his voice low. Vanessa and Michael are out. You're my only heir. I was blind and I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Emily looks at him across the table. You think this is about a will? She asks softly. Richard blinks, unsure what to say. You threw me away, Emily continues, her voice steady. You didn't even ask for proof. You believed a lie over me, over Mom. And now you want things to go back to how they were. I was wrong, Richard whispers. I see that now. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Emily shakes her head. You can't just buy my love with papers and promises. I'm glad you told the truth, but I'm not going to pretend nothing happened. Richard's eyes fill with tears. I don't know how to fix this. Maybe you can't, Emily says, her tone calm, not cruel. But I can fix myself. I'm done chasing your approval. I'm done begging you to see me. I know who I am now, and I don't need anyone to tell me I'm worthy. The words hang in the air like a door closing. Richard bows his head, ashamed. Emily stands, gathering hair back. I don't hate you, Dad, she says quietly. But I can't forget what you did. Love isn't supposed to disappear just because someone whispers a lie. You'll have to live with that. I'm choosing peace over pain. Richard reaches for her hand, but Emily steps back. Take care of yourself, she says, then walks away. From that day forward, Emily stops waiting for her father's approval. She pours her energy into her work as a nurse, into saving lives and building her own future. She no longer measures her worth by Richard's love or anyone else's. With Vanessa and Michael gone, Richard tries to reconnect, sending flowers, writing letters, even waiting outside the hospital to see her. Sometimes Emily speaks to him politely, but she keeps her distance. The power has shifted. No longer is she the little girl desperate to be noticed. She is a woman who knows her value. Emily uses part of her inheritance to start a scholarship fund for young nurses. This money isn't a gift from my father, she tells a friend. It's a tool to help others. I'm building something of my own. As she grows stronger, the pain of betrayal begins to fade. She still misses the father who once held her hand when she was little, but she accepts that man no longer exists. The one who remains will have to earn a place in her life, if he ever can. Richard begs for forgiveness again and again, but Emily never lets him think that love can be switched on and off like a light. She refuses to let guilt control her or riches define her. In the end, Emily learns the greatest truth of all. She does not need anyone's approval to be whole. Not even her father's. She is enough, and she always has been. Emily visits her mother's grave on a quiet afternoon. The cemetery is calm, with only the sound of birds and the rustle of wind through the trees. She kneels by the simple stone, holding two things in her hands, the DNA results and a handwritten letter. "Hi, Mom," Emily whispers, her voice soft but steady. "It's been a while." She takes a deep breath and lays the envelope on the grass. "They tried to erase us," she says, her fingers tracing her mother's name on the stone. But the truth lives. For a moment, Emily just sits there, letting herself feel everything. The anger, the sadness, the years of doubt and hurt. But something inside her is different now. The heavy weight she carried for so long is finally gone. She opens the letter and reads it aloud. It's short, only a few lines she wrote herself. "I know who you were. I know who I am. No lie can change that. I love you, and I'll always protect your name." Emily places the letter carefully beside the DNA results and smooths the paper so it won't blow away. "They can't hurt us anymore," she whispers. "Not Dad. Not Vanessa. No one." A tear slips down her cheek, but it isn't from pain this time. It feels like release, like closing a door that should have been shut long ago. She rises to her feet, looking at the grave one last time. "I'm done fighting for people who don't see me," she says softly. "I'm going to live my life now for me and for you." As Emily walks back to her car, the sun breaks through the clouds. The light feels warm on her face. She isn't broken anymore. She isn't the little girl begging for her father's love. She is stronger, wiser, and free. By the time she reaches the cemetery gate, she knows exactly who she is. Not because Richard finally admitted the truth, but because she found it for herself. Emily leaves the past behind with every step, carrying only her mother's love in her heart. The lies, the betrayal, the desperate need for approval. All of it fades away. She doesn't look back. Iluwas, thanks so much for watching till the very end. You're the real MVPs. Don't forget to like, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story. See you next time.